welcome once again to the Nature Series. On this week's program, we're going to be taking you outside. We're going to open it up here in the studio, and then we're going to take you outside to North Park, where it's a little colder than it is in the studio. I think it'll feel good about that time. And we're going to talk about photographing the geese and the ducks out there now, and also about feeding and what's good to feed them, what's not. If you notice, I'm sitting here holding the plant this week. This is the infamous yellow plant that's been with us for quite some time now. Someone has snitched my table. Where it has gone, I'll never know, but it's gone. We don't have any place to put the plant, so this week I'm stuck holding it on my lap. If you do notice, though, behind us, we do have a fancy background, huh? Makes you feel like you're right in the outdoors, doesn't it? Yeah, me too. Okay, so anyhow, on to this week's show. Again, we're just going to be talking about feeding the birds and photographing the birds. If you notice, the past couple of weeks here, we've been running some reruns. The main reason for that is just, well, the one was on cold weather clothing, and that seemed appropriate to rerun at this time of the year. The other one was on the thing we did at Beechwood Farms with the bird feeders and whatnot. And the reason we wanted to run that again is that this is a good time if you don't have a bird feeder out yet. This is really a good time to get around and do it, because this is when the birds really need the extra food. So keep that in mind, try to get out there, and that'll also fit in with today's show as well. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to have to get changed a little bit, because I'm not dressed for the cold weather in here, obviously. It's about 95 degrees here. I'm going to go get changed, and we'll see you in a minute out at North Park, okay? Okay, hello, and here we are now at North Park. This is one of the two parks that Allegheny County Park System has. I mean, as far as this type of a park, this is North Park. The reason I wanted to come out here, as you can see, it's a little chilly, and don't laugh at my hat, but it's pretty doggone warm. We're not doing too bad today. The wind chill out here, I think they said roughly coming off the lake was about 20 or 30 below, so we're okay. What we want to talk about today is just using a place like this not only to observe wildlife, and especially in this case today, birds and geese and ducks, but also to photograph. And this makes an excellent place to get some great natural looking photographs, and by natural looking I mean they are actually natural photographs. We have some of the geese taking off now. They're going over to a watering hole, and we're going to talk about that as well. First of all, just talking about the camera equipment. You know, we mentioned on a previous show about, you know, cold weather and stuff, and as cold as it is today, it's starting to stiffen up. But it's okay. You don't have to worry about it. So we don't have to take any special precautions with that. Again, just be careful of your film. Remember, if it gets real cold, it can crack. Okay, a little bit about what we're going to see here and what I want to show you here. One thing you'll notice when you go out to a lake, whether it's in North Park, South Park, or just anywhere out, in the wintertime or in the cold weather, when the water freezes over, the ponds and the lakes freeze over, you'll see that the geese and the ducks will leave an opening that's of unthawed water, and what they do is they take this area and they generally swim constantly. They move around, keeping the water moving so that it doesn't freeze, and the reason they do that is because they always need water to drink. And if you see this and the rest of the lake's frozen, don't walk out to the watering hole and bother the geese. That is their refuge out there. That's another thing that they can do, is they can go out there to get away from predators. And you don't want to bother them out there. Leave them alone. It's cold, and when they fly, a lot of times you'll see them sitting on the ice. In fact, a lot of them are doing that here now. And you think, golly, that must be really cold. It's not cold to them when they're sitting there. But what happens is when they have to fly around to get away from you, or run around to get away from you, then they're burning up needless energy. And then they're going to waste energy, and therefore they can end up freezing to death if they don't get enough food. So, you know, leave them alone. If they're right along shore and you want to feed them, that's fine. But if they go to the watering hole, again, just leave them alone out there and just sit back and watch them. A little bit I want to talk about, too, about feeding the geese. A lot of, and ducks, too. When I mention the geese, I'm talking really generally the geese and the ducks. People take great pleasure in feeding them, and that's a terrific thing, believe me. I mean, I come out and feed them all the time, especially in the cold weather. But the most common thing that people feed these birds is bread. Do not feed them bread. I mean, it's, you know, they'll go after it and they'll eat it and they'll love it, believe me. But the thing is when you raise your children, you can't feed them candy all the time. If you give them candy, they'll eat it all the time. But if that's all you feed them, they will not grow up to be healthy, let's face it. And the same with these birds. And one bad thing in the cold weather is that when you feed them bread, and if that is all that they get and they can't get natural vegetation, it's probably being overpowered by the geese back here, but Anyhow, if they don't get natural vegetation or other good foods, fibrous foods, in addition to the bread, they can literally starve to death, even though they're filled up. Their stomachs will be full of food, but they will starve to death because they won't get the nutrition they need. So the one thing you want to remember is don't feed bread, and you want to know what to feed. Okay, hold on a second. I have to take my mitten off for this. What we do is you feed them either whole or cracked corn. Okay, and what that is, I just have it in my hand here, is I usually go out and I get a mixture of, like I say, whole corns and fine and coarse cracked corn. And this is really great for them. I mean, the geese can eat it, the ducks can eat it. It's a good all-around food. This is good food for them. Okay, this has all the nourishment they need. That's why you always see geese in cornfields, because corn, is an ideal food for them to eat. So what we're going to do here, I'll just stick this back in the bag for now, is we're going to go feed some of the geese and also talk a little bit about photographing them again. When you come out to photograph them, don't just come out and just start snapping away. Just look where your light is again, and watch what they're doing. Take some time, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Sit down, sit back, or just stand off to the side a little bit. Let them go along naturally and see what they're doing. Then just take note of this, and then you'll have a better idea as to how to photograph them. And the more you do this, a great thing to do here is just like we're doing today. Come out, feed the geese, photograph the geese, watch the geese. This is the greatest way to learn about them, and also the greatest way to get good, outstanding photographs of geese. And remember, because if we do have another photo contest coming up soon, this is your chance to get a good prize-winning photograph. So let's go feed the geese. What we're going to do is you'll probably get a lot of this crumbling, so I'll set it down. Basically, all you need to do is just real simple. You can see the geese out here and just laying around on the ice and just sort of enjoying themselves. And see, look here, just throwing the corn out, and they go crazy over this. See, watch. Here, we'll just see if we can throw it a little closer, see if we can get them to come in a little bit closer to us. There they go. And see, now that you have them out here, okay, then we have an ideal opportunity, since they're, especially now, since they're used to us being here, and they're also busy eating, they're not going to notice us, and the light's pretty good here too, so we have an ideal opportunity for photographing the geese. So I'm going to stick the mic down here a little bit and see if I can grab a couple of shots. Sorry about the crumbling there. As I said, this is like an ideal opportunity for photographing geese. Because again, look, they're completely preoccupied with eating out here, and they could care less what we're doing here. We'll throw them a little bit more food out here. And this is just wonderful. This will also give you an idea when you can watch them, is them fighting for the food. Now here they're not fighting for it too much because there's ample to go around, but what will happen a lot of times is one bird will want the food and another one will want the food, and they'll sort of fight for it, and you can get an idea of the mannerisms and what they're doing. And like I say, it just gives you a really good all-around idea as to what these birds are all about, and an idea to get some really good photographs. Another thing too, when you come out to photograph these birds, don't try to get down. I mean, I'm squatting down here now. And this is sort of what you want to do. Squat down and get as close to their level as you can. It'll give you a better perspective on the photograph, looking at them rather than the photograph looking down on the birds all the time. Give you sort of a one-on-one view. See here, we have a couple out here. Now they quit now, but they were pumping their heads. And in one of the upcoming shows, we're going to be talking about geese and ducks and some of the mannerisms to watch for when you're photographing. And that's one right there, is pumping heads. That's a real aggressive maneuver by the geese. And again, it's just when they do that, then you have an idea as to what they're going to do next. And you just, there we go. You see all the little heads just pop up in the air, watch the corn kernels. So again, this is just a real terrific thing. It's good for the geese, it's good for the ducks, it's good for you. There, we had a couple fighting there. It's just a real outstanding thing, and to watch these birds fly, and here, unfortunately, he's in now. What's really neat to see is when these birds come flying in and they try to land onto the ice. You know, it's skid and slide and everything all over the place. It's just terrific. So again, this is a great thing to do. You can come out here, you can spend the day. It's not that cold. Like I said, the wind chill 20, 30 below. Golly, it's great out here. A couple more degrees warmer, we can sunbathe, huh? Come on, get ready for the winter camping, can't we? So please, come on out. Like I say, it's not only good for you, it's great for these birds. It gives them some extra food, gives you a chance to get some good photographs. So please, go out to your park, go out to a lake where you see the geese and the ducks, take some cracked corn. Don't take the bread. Please don't take the bread. Take the cracked corn. Actually, the cracked corn is even cheaper than the bread, really. Take it out. It's better for them. Have a good time. What we're going to do now is just head back into the studio and tell you a couple other things coming of upcoming shows, show you a few slides, and say goodbye till next week. So, a couple of minutes till we see you back in the studio. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that little bit that we did out there at the park. Again, we're back here in the studio. It's a little warmer now. It was nice and chilly out there. It felt kind of good for a while. What I want to do is at the end of the program, we're going to run some slides for you. But in the meantime, I just want to review a few of the things there. Oh, almost forgot here. I can't leave my plan on the floor. Some of the things that I talked about there, I just want to go over real quick with you. One of the main things, again, is just in feeding the birds. When you go to feed the birds, again, you know, cracked corn is the best. You can take anything that's a natural type food out there, but just stay away from the bread, please. The bread is just, as I mentioned earlier, what happens is, I'm trying to think of how to describe this real briefly. What happens is the digestive system for birds of prey, or not birds of prey, for waterfowl, I'm sorry, in the gizzard itself, okay, the digestive thing, instead of, it's not designed to digest things like bread and things like that. What happens is when they ingest bread and it goes through the gizzard, it sort of just mushes up, sort of like it does in your mouth. And what they're designed for is they have like a grinding inside the gizzard. It's designed to grind up things like corn and whatnot. You know, you look at cracked corn or whole corn and you think, you know, this stuff's hard as a rock. I mean, my God, you can't even chew it in your own mouth. You'd break your teeth. And you wonder how they can eat this. Well, they don't chew. That's just it. They have very, very fine little teeth, so they're not really designed to chew. And what happens is this is all done, this whole process of grinding it up and digesting is done through the gizzard itself. So this is why bread's not good. Besides, bread just does not have the nutritional value that geese and ducks and all waterfowl need. So again, just stay away from the bread. It's just real bad for them. They can starve to death or just get quite ill because, you know, that they're not getting the nutrition. Okay, another thing is, you know, we mentioned briefly about the watering hole. This is something to keep in mind. I'm going to set this down now because you've all seen it. It's getting in the way. The watering hole, again, what they do is when a lake or a pond or whatever freezes over, they pick an area, and the size of the area depends on the number of birds that are actually there are going to be using it or staying there. But what they do is they take turns. If you ever notice, there's generally always a group of birds, ducks and geese both, you know, at the watering hole. And what they do is they don't swim in circles, more, you know, so to speak, but they continually swim, you know, in the area, the entire area of the watering hole. What happens is it keeps the water moving constantly so that it doesn't freeze, because they always need that fresh water to drink. Okay, you know, that's the easiest place for them to get it, so they continually swim. The other thing is that it's also a means of protection for them, because when you have a frozen lake, a lot of things aren't going to go across the lake and then into the water, you know, to prey on them. And again, people. And if you notice, like at North Park where we just came from, what happens there a lot of the times, I notice in the winter, is that people are just, obsessed with the idea of having to feed these birds, and that's great. I mean, it's good to feed them. Unfortunately, again, it's always bred. But what they do is they want so badly to feed them is that their main interest goes from helping the birds and getting some enjoyment out of it to just getting enjoyment out of it. So what they'll do is they'll walk across the ice after it's frozen hard enough, and they'll actually go to the watering hole. And the geese, what the geese are doing, and the ducks, is they're moving out to the watering hole to get away from the people on the shoreline. And then when the people move out to the watering hole, then it crowds the geese, and then it bothers them again. So just don't do that. Besides of which, it's very dangerous. Again, when I see people doing it, what really bothers me a great deal is that they take their little kids out there. I've seen people out there holding babies that shouldn't even be out in the cold, as far as I'm concerned. And they're out there and they're standing at the edge of the ice where it's getting thinner because the water keeps moving underneath. If it breaks, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. So there's a lot of reasons not to. Just don't do it. If you want to feed them, if you're worried about them getting food, throw it there on the ice. Okay, when they're hungry, they'll come over and get it. Okay, so that's another good thing to keep in mind. Again, just don't bother the geese. And speaking of bothering the geese, when you see them laying around, a lot of times people like to see them fly, and it's understandable because it's great to see this. But the thing you have to remember is, in the cold weather especially, is when they're laying around on the ice, they're not cold at all. Okay, but I mean, we all try to buy down coats and whatnot, down-filled garment to stay warm. That's where the down comes from. Okay, so they are not cold. They're well insulated against the cold. But the problem is and the reason that they're laying around so much in the cold weather is because they are conserving body heat. They're conserving body energy. When you go and you chase them or whatever, you cause them to fly away or run away, they're burning up the extra energy that they're trying to store to keep warm. And when they do that, if they can't get food soon afterwards, then they can get extremely cold, get sick, or freeze to death. So just let them go. I mean, if you were taking it easy somewhere, you wouldn't want someone to come along and make you move or run away or whatever. So use the same consideration. Just leave the birds alone. If you want to feed them, throw them food. If they don't take it, that's because they're not hungry. Okay? I mean, if somebody gives you food, if you're not hungry, you're not going to eat it. You don't want them to force you. Again, just use the same type of thought with the animals. Okay, everything works about the same. Okay, the other couple of things I want to talk about before we close out here today, when you're photographing. Again, when we were out there, I guess the actual temperature was somewhere around 5 degrees or 0 or something. It wasn't too bad, and the wind chill I think was about 20 below roughly. That's not too bad as far as photographing. Okay, you're not going to have any real problems with the camera equipment itself or the lenses. As I mentioned, the lens would get a little bit stiff, but nothing to worry about. The only thing that you do have to be concerned about is with the film. If you're out there just for 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, chances are you won't have much trouble with film unless the actual film is exposed excuse me, to the outside temperature before you put it in the camera for a while. If it's run through the camera, it's not going to get cold enough, chances are, in that time to snap very easily. But if you wind it through fast with a motor drive or you rewind it rapidly, it can break, or you can have a static buildup on it. And static buildup is the most common because of the cold, so just stay away from that if you can. Just take the little precautions, really. It's nothing very drastic. And again, with the cold weather treatment for camera equipment, getting special lubricants and this and that. Everybody, used to tell me, oh, you have to have this done. I've been photographing for quite a while, and I've photographed or done a lot of my photographing in weather that cold or a lot colder, and only once have I ever had to have the stuff specially lubricated. So I won't worry about it too much. And as far as anything else, the only thing is the obvious. Just wear warm clothing. Wear some, keep a hat on your head, really. That, I know my hat was a funny looking hat out there, I understand that, but I was warm. What you have to do is you have to remember that, as we mentioned with cold weather clothing, is you lose the majority of your body heat through your thighs and through your head. So if you keep your head covered and you don't wear things that are tight on your legs, then you're going to conserve a lot of body heat. So just do that. The beard helps most of you, well, not most of you, a lot of you, especially the women out there, obviously can't grow the beards, but that does help. Wear layered clothing. Okay, just, so that if you get too warm, you can take something off, or if you get chilly, you can put something else on. The basic things. So that's about it. Just keep these things in mind. Again, we're going to show you some slides at the end of the show here. Excuse me. One thing I want to mention to you before we get going here, I'm not sure the exact dates yet, but I believe it's sometime in May. You can contact the museum, but I will be giving a one-day workshop for Carnegie Museum of Natural History. If anybody's interested, as I said, you can contact the museum. If you do, make sure you contact the education department at the Museum of Natural History, not the Museum of Art. Okay, but they're two separate entities over there, so make sure it's natural history. Or you can drop us a line or give us a call down here at the cable station, and we can get a brochure out to you as far as the exact date and the exact times. There's also going to be a 4 or 5 week class on nature and nature photography at the museum. So if you're interested in a class rather than a workshop, again, I'll be giving that around the same time. I think it's the end of April, early May, somewhere around there. So give us a call. So that's about it. I hope you stay for the slideshow. And again, if you have any questions, any comments about the nature series, give us a call or drop us a line down here. We'll be happy to answer it for you. If you have any special questions on techniques or anything like that that we can do on the air, we'll be more than happy to answer the questions or to give you a demonstration here in the air to let you see it a little bit better. So that wraps the show for this week. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again soon.